Franz maintains another relation to language, another system of feints and demande. There is only one memory remaining in the adult's registrar of primal clashes. There's only one episode in the early years of which I have a direct memory. Kafka brings it on early in the letter. This is the only unparasited, no secondary revision, total recall to which the adult signatory lays claim, supposing that the addressee may share the memory. You may remember it too. Undoubtedly, the very notion of childhood depends on narrated memory, often, as Lyotard states, coming from an adult source. So, this is the only direct hit, the undoctored docudrama of which the writer evinces no doubt. This is Kafka having no doubt for once in his life. Direkt erinnere ich mich, I distinctly remember only one thing. The memory grows out of a whimper, part of a phrasal regime that barely makes it to the Super Bowl of language games. One night I kept on whimpering, ich winselte einmal in der Nacht, for water, not, I am certain, because I was thirsty, but probably partly to be annoying, partly to keep myself entertained. Thus the first and only unalloyed childhood memory, says the signature. It announces the night of a first relation to language, the squeak or peak of calling out primally, putting forth a desire without object or need, banked on ambivalence, the whimper meant to annoy the other, while serving to amuse or maintain the solitary child. Though formulated as a demande, urgently putting upon the other, the whimper does not arise out of want or expect reference to emerge out of nothing. Asking for water, the child does not want water, is neither a thirsty empiricist, nor philosophy's primal man, but he or it, since it whimpers and does not directly speak, though it is already bilingual, as we will learn from the next sentence, he will nonetheless meet up with Rousseau's Hulk. Squeaking immerfort repeatedly for water, the child, on automatic whimper, ignores the threats that come to the encounter of his unstoppable demand. This cues the first war of the Kafka worlds, priming the dispute of language usage that irreconcilably separate son from father. The first direct hit, angering the father, volleys language, evinces blanks, and makes use of the senseless as his locutionary site, wanting nothing but the jouissance of a false positing. Yes, imagine the child's first target practice exercises, the pleasure of scatter shooting off the range of meaning and reference, saying language is noise and nothing, choosing the random word, not of milk, pee-pee, or mommy, but of water. But this may be a child ontologist. Water, distilled to its anosemic base as Wasser, in German, may be asking after a question of essence. Was? Yeah. Who, what is he? The passage emphasizes that the demand for water was not in any way motivated by thirst or object. So listen, this kid is very precocious. It's like 2 months old, and it knows that language has nothing to do with object or signified or anything. Language perversion, the essence of language, keeps the child going, setting up a scene of illicit delight to which the father seems privy. Look, if it had been a matter of substance or meaning, the child would have been given his damn water, stopped up and stilled. The adults could have returned to sleep, because there's a complicity here. Why is the father refusing the water? Just give the kid the water. The adults could have returned to sleep, but something else is afoot, and parental supervision requires that the inessential spitballs or jouissance of non-meaning be halted. The sleepless night of pure feint, of linguistic screeching, needs to stop. The father, responding to domestic code orange, counters the child's burbling assaults with threats. The night of the first remembered threat, sounding the call or order that the child would not heed, dissolves into violence, demonstrating the breakdown in a diplomatic idiom that is, however, backed up by force. This scene, similar to a host of traumatic memories pieced together by Franz, multiplies and escalates the political stakes involved in the languages and names of the father. Every whimper sets off a terror alert, brings home the law. The father moves into action, bursts into the room to deport the child. After several vigorous threats had failed to have any effect, "You took me out of bed, carried me out onto the pavlach, and left me there alone for a while in my nightshirt outside the shut door." This episode, the first non-revisionist history of their relation, indicates, as do many Kafkan parables and descriptions, what Lacan would call an architecture of pain, a scenography of persecution blueprinted by constituted domestic spaces. The father removes the child to the outside of an inside that is designated in Czech, doubling the intimate foreignness or foreign habitualness of the uninhabitable signifier. Pavlach, a Czech word, is the name for the balcony in the inner courtyard of the house in Prague. The child, according to architectural design, is put out to be locked in and shut up. Removed to an outside, he receives his first eviction notice, but still remains too close to home to flee or free himself. Many things are taking place here, setting into place an irreversible lockdown of the childhood memory. If language is the house of being, the child has been hurled out of language to remain chained to its peripheral structure, where outside and inside collapse at the same time as a barrier is constructed. The locality to which he is exiled, at once shut out and locked in, switches languages, functions like a swish or linguistic blur, adhering to the tenuous outside with foreign subtitles. "You sent me to the pavlach, the other side or site of a miner's literature. Splash, here comes the water. Psh, pavlach." And I can't pronounce it in Czech anymore. As for the non-referential water the child had obstinately whimpered for, he himself gushes with tears, a victim of his own language theory. There is an aquatic consistency to his plaint, many scenes near or in that are productive of water, tidal waves of humiliation, being exposed, puny and scared at the pool next to his father's big body, lots of tears held back or released, raining on his parades. Clearly, if one were trolling after a psychoanalytic redescription of this scene, one would look further into the suspicious conjunctions linking wetting, gushing, language spilling, and spoiling, all leading up to the paternal punishment smack packs that are unforgettable and structuring. As concerns the signature of the letter, he does not assign blame. Perhaps there was really no other way of getting peace and quiet that night, but brings this up as typical of your methods of bringing up a child and their effect on me. The pavlach punishment worked. I dare say I was quite obedient afterward at that period, but it did me inner harm. Sent out, the child was struck inwardly. Having been brought up, or rather down to obedience, Kafka frequently says that he didn't have an upbringing, he had a downbringing.